If you're a female runner over the age of 45, constantly running in pain, you feel like you're tired and fatigued all the time, and your running is just in a downward spiral, this is the video for you. Today we're going to show you the one thing that you have to add into your training schedule. It's a non-negotiable that's going to change your life. I'm going to hand you over to Devlin and he's going to get us started.
The number one non-negotiable to add to your training is strength training. It's not just strength training that's important, but rather the type of strength training, and Shona's going to go into that in a little bit more detail later on. We know that strength training is important, but let's dig into the why it is so important. The first thing is it helps improve bone health. Strength training helps with bone structure and, more importantly, improving your bone mineral density. A second aspect is reducing the muscle mass loss. Now, age-related muscle mass loss is really key here. There was a study done that showed the average 70-year-old female could not lift a 10-pound bag of dog food. Now, if you think about it, that's really not that heavy, but it does go to show that the age-related muscle mass is quite a big factor. Now, unfortunately, it is not something we can just get away from. We are always, whether it's female athletes, male athletes, there is a degeneration in muscle mass or muscle loss. It is key though, the strength training, very importantly, slows that loss down. So it does minimize how much muscle mass we are losing. Another key benefit here is to reduce your risk of injury. By doing strength training, it is allowing your body to handle the types of training, the type of load that you are going to be doing in any sort of training situation, as well as just general daily living, that becomes very important for you to be able to handle those stresses on the body. As a result, it also has a direct relationship to improving your performance. By doing strength training, as I mentioned, reducing that risk of injury allows you to be more consistent in your training, so you're not injured and being laid off of training, so that consistency helps with performance, as well as force generation into your running stride, body posture, being able to produce power in the right direction for your training, all of which improves running performance. So two very key factors there is reducing the risk of injury and improving your running performance. We know why strength training is important, but it is also very important to be consistent with our strength training. We neglect strength training because we're trying to fit all the running sessions in and a couple of other things going on in daily life. I would much rather you drop a running session. So if you're typically running 4 times a week, cut that down to 3 runs a week and rather add an extra strength session in. Be consistent with the strength training. It is absolutely vital.
So many female runners that I've worked with say to me, oh, but Shona, I am doing strength training. And it's not just any kind of strength training. It's a particular type of strength training that you're doing that is really, really important. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about resistance training. Essentially, resistance training is pushing your body against a form of resistance. And that is really, really key, because that is going to elicit all the good things that we've spoken about and why strength training is so important. Increasing your bone density, increasing your lean muscle mass, that comes from pushing your body against a form of resistance. Resistance training can start with something like pushing your body weight, right? So think of a push-up or a body-weighted squat. You are moving your own body weight against a resistance. That resistance might be gravity to start off with. From there, as we get a little bit stronger and stronger, we may add a load, which could be a weight, it could be a resistance band, could be a TheraBand or a kettlebell. That is essentially loading the body and building up over time to pushing the body against a form of resistance. And so it's those pushing against that particular weight or load or your own body weight that is the really elicit the positive things from strength training that Dev spoke about earlier.
Shona explained what you should be doing for strength training, and there's loads of evidence coming out all the time showing that females going through menopause should lift and lift heavy. But the problem is we've got to start somewhere. We can't just go into a gym and pick up heavy weights. There are too many risks involved. You've got to lay a foundation and start somewhere and build up slowly over time to get yourself to the point that you can lift and lift heavy. The second thing that's also very important is that as you lift heavier, you've got to learn the proper technique and never compromise on technique to lift heavy, because you are going to compromise on what you are strengthening, but much more importantly, you're going to put yourself at very large risk of getting injured and unable to do the strength training you need to do to stay healthy and stay running.
As we've discussed in this video, strength training is very, very important, and the earlier you start, the better. So when you start in your 20s and 30s, it is most beneficial. But if you haven't had the opportunity to do this, it doesn't matter. If you start in your 40s or 50s, there's never a bad time to start. The important thing for you is to just get going. And once you start strength training, you will reap the benefits of the activity immediately. The good news is we've already put together a strength training program for you that you can do at home on your own with minimal equipment. So please click the link on screen to download now.
Now you know why strength training is so important and the types of strength training that you should be doing. But that is really only one piece of the entire puzzle. There are 4 other fundamentals that you really need to focus on in order to run pain and injury free before, during and long after menopause. I'm actually hosting a webinar where I'll go through those 4 other fundamentals and how to implement them all into your training. And you can grab your seats in that webinar by clicking on the link that's on screen now.